How's it going, everybody? I'm Drifty from Driftwood Gaming. We're going to continue our Let's Make a Game on Dungeons of Driftwood. I forgot what episode this is. 11, I think. It's 11, maybe 12. Anyway, in the last video, I did a little sneak peek on the in-game battle sequence, action sequence, animation sequence. That I showed some of the stuff in game, and I told you guys we're going to look at the database and look at the events and kind of see how it all is finally starting to fall together into some sort of gameplay. Alright, so right off the bat, we'll just start at the top. I added some actors, we'll add some more probably. I'm going to probably use some random dude's character customizer once everything gets kind of compatible and everything. And let the character build their own party. Probably start the player with one actor, and then let the player do a few like tutorial things at the beginning, and then unlock the full party of 6, so that by the time they get to the world that you see underneath this database thing right here, they'll have a party of 6 that they can customize. Also change the way that jobs are going to be handled. Let's moving over to classes. I've already talked about how I'm using Final Fantasy XI style jobs, but that's not all. I'm going to be adding lots of custom jobs, as well as some jobs from other games in the Final Fantasy series and possibly other games as well, drawing influence on a lot of the games that I liked growing up and games I still like today. I was actually watching some speed runs on Final Fantasy VI and Final Fantasy IV, and I want to plug RPG Limit Break, their YouTube channel. They've got like 5,000 subs, but they have tons of great speed runners and people who kind of know the ins and outs of these games. And check out them if you're interested in speed running old games. But in other side news, Final Fantasy Record Keeper came out with the Final Fantasy VI event that's going on right now. And even if you haven't, even if you just started, you'll be able to do a lot of that event. So if you're interested in Final Fantasy Record Keeper, I highly recommend it. You could start now and get a bunch of Final Fantasy VI characters for little effort at all. Anyway, so the jobs we have in Dungeons of Driftwood, we've got Warrior, Monk, White Mage, Black Mage, Red Mage, and Thief completed. There'll be some changes, of course, but they're pretty much set up how I want them to be. I've just started adding Paladin stuff, and I saw the tips and tricks video from Yanfly, and it was supposedly how to do an aura from World of Warcraft, the Paladin's aura, but to me it looked more like a great replica of the cover skill. So the way I have the cover skill is not how the Final Fantasy series handles cover. It's kind of like some it's not the best way that cover should work. I think it gives like a defense bonus. How am I handling cover? So I'm basically using cover to reduce physical damage taken by the party by 20%, but it doesn't. So it's targeting all allies, but I'm using the targeting core to not target yourself. So the paladin will be able to reduce damage taken from everybody except himself for using cover, but I don't really like that exactly. I'm going to change that. Thank you, Yanfly, for that last tips and tricks. I know it was supposed to be a World of Warcraft thing, but it looks more like a Final Fantasy style cover skill, which I'm going to definitely use, and I'll be adding that pretty soon. But anyway, let's take a look at all the rest of these classes. If you play Final Fantasy XI, then all of these classes are going to be added at some point in time. Beastmaster is still a question, kind of a question mark, how I'm going to do it. And I know Chaos Control's got some good ideas. So I'll probably do some stuff for that. Bard, I know how I'm going to do this. I'm going to be using the auras. The same thing for the Geomancer. I'm going to be using Yanfly's auto passive states with the aura extension. What is it called? Really cool plugin. It's definitely going to be used for a lot of skills as I get towards the end of the list there and Geomancer comes up. Let's just try to find the name of it. There's so many plugins right now, which is awesome. Auto passive states might be a little bit closer to the top. And while we're looking at here, you can sort of see what skills, what plugins that I am using. Auto passive states. If you have any questions about any of these plugins, you could always ask Yanfly on his Patreon, or you could ask me in the comments below, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. I also have a Patreon if you want to ask me there. Let's see, auto passive states. Anyway, it's called the Oracore or something like that. It's like an extension plugin, I believe. It might be standalone, but I'm pretty sure it's not. Here it is, auto passive states and YEP underscore X passive auras. Or okay, passive auras. This is going to be what I'm going to be using for how to handle, definitely how to handle geomancer skills, but possibly also some, if not all, of the bard skills as well, because it's going to give so many different ways that these things can trigger. I think it'll be a really, really cool idea. What I also need to do is add new things to the Gashapon loot system after creating. I need to create them and then add them to the loot system. See, I've got for my weapons, I've got daggers, swords, guns, katanas, staffs, flails, harps, which I need to finish adding. They haven't been added yet, but since I'm going to allow the bard, which I've sort of just set him up to use daggers and staffs, sort of like how the black mage would do it as well. But I kind of, since I've already got a lot of the groundwork laid for the harps, I'll probably add the harps and add those to the Gashapon loot system as well. Not all things are going to be, you're not going to be able to obtain all things through, the giant Gashapon system, but the majority of your basic weapons and armors are going to be added. We've got Knuckles, which were previously named Claws, but I kind of didn't like the animation, so even though I added them as claws and completed how they looked and everything, I changed their animation. I gave them a new animation, changed the type from claw to Knuckles, and changed the icons on all of them. Also updated the Gashapon, what is it called? Not the window pop-up, but it's another Yanfly plugin that shows the bubble icons. But you have to get the icon number for all of that when you do a plugin command. Icon balloons. So this plugin right here. So I had to kind of reference different numbers, and I made a giant list on how to. Let's see. I think I put them in here. Might have. Yeah. See, I had to create the icon. So this is a good tip for anybody who's making interesting systems and just needs to reference a lot of the icons or reference anything, is to create a text file, a simple text file, and keep notes. And if you're creating special variables for certain weapons and skills, just keep notes of everything you're doing. You can see all the notes that I've added over the making of this game. And I've referenced this text file constantly throughout making the game, and as I come across things that I'm still learning, or as things that I know I'm going to have to reference, I'll add it to this help text file, which will be packaged with the game as well for anybody else to reference if needed. But mainly it's just like a help file that's going to be referenced by me, to help me with, like, if I create a naming convention and I want to remember how I'm setting up the naming convention or something. Or if I create a skill but I end up taking it out, and I know I put time in how it works or something, I don't want to completely remove it, I'll just kind of take the note tag and put it in the text file and then remove it from the game. So I still have it in a text file if I need to bring it back in for some reason or another, or I need to transform it. But anyway, back into the project here. I think we jumped over items and skills, but I think we should go to skills here because there's a massive amount of skills that I've added. So the skills that we've started off, I remember in the beginning of this, before the overhaul, I had with one character, I made these 300, and some of them are still being used, like some of the basic weapon skills for each weapon are in the game. Some of these, what do you call it? The shot weapons, which are basically going to be for using guns and stuff. I think those are still being used for enemies and stuff, the curses and whatnot. But they're basically they're going to be for the custom classes. I'm going to call them back into the game, and then after 300 to 600 is just replicas of those same skills, but the formulas are different because in these are the enemy versions of those skills. It's a big messy system how I set up at the beginning, which is kind of it's kind of interesting, and I still like it, but I'm kind of phasing more and more out of that system because it kind of limits you to how much, you know, if you want to be realistic in times that the time it's going to take for you to finish the project and how much workload you want to take on. Sometimes you need to narrow it down a little bit. This was just a little idea I came up with. This is all of these skills right here: the Azer, Bazer, Kazer, Taser, Azer, Phaser, Gazer, Hazer, Iazer, all of that. It's basically A to Z, and it's the same animation, the same everything except for the damage formula change and the MP cost changes. But basically, it's going to be for an enemy, some notorious boss or some monster that you have to fight at some point in time. He's going to have all 26 of these, so there's going to be some random chance depending on what skill he uses. So if you get hit with Bazer, it's only going to do a little damage, but if you get hit with something like Yazer or Zazer, it's going to do a ton of damage. And I just thought it was something really cool to give a random random aspect of a boss. On top of other skills, you know, there's gonna be. Speaking of bosses, I want all my bosses to have some sort of strategy involved to where either they're pretty strong against other stuff, or they got a lot of HP or something, but they're really weak to a certain element, or if they get blinded, then they become really easy because most of their stuff just misses. So strategy is going to be key in my boss design. I don't want them to be just big meat bags that have no weaknesses or no strengths. Definitely want to have some sort of strategy to all the enemies, and we'll jump over to the enemies pretty soon. So after that, we've got the job unlock skills, which I just added a couple days ago. So how I'm handling the job system, which I think I touched on that point earlier in the video. I changed it so that the player can't just freely change their jobs on the fly. Yet they will be able to once they unlock those jobs. So after I do the character creation part of the game, you're gonna be able to select your starting job, which will either be warrior, monk, white mage, black mage, red mage, and thief. And I might also add one custom starting job or two custom starting jobs that the player can pick from at the beginning of the game. And even though you pick a job, you're not set to that job. You could always switch your job because I am using Yanfly's class change core. Class change core, I think is what it's called. The starting jobs are going to have a learning cost of 3,000 JP. Could be changed to might be 1,000 or 2, or even less. But all jobs are going to have a one item requirement on top of the job points. So they're going to need the testimony. So how I'm going to handle the testimonies is I'm going to design bosses that are basically, if you want to unlock warrior, you're going to have to beat a warrior type boss that'll have most, if not all, of the skills that the warrior would have. Maybe excluding the 2 hour or 30 cooldown ability. You know, like for warrior, I don't know if I want to give it mighty strikes because it'll make every hit critical. I'm not really into like the one hit kills, but I might add that as a conditional thing, saying if the boss is at 20% or less HP, then they have access to this as a, you know, like a low percent chance. Like if their highest rated ability is 5, then I might unlock this as a rating of 3, which will give it, I think, like a 1/8 chance, depending on how many other skills he already has to call upon in that rating. When he's like under 15% HP or something, I don't know. But we'll figure that out as we go. So I had to create skills. That way I can use the skill learning system to unlock those jobs. So actually, I kind of want to jump into the game just to show you how it would sort of work. Did I add? I think I tested it already to see if it would work. So I'm going to just do this right here. Test event. Awarding myself with a few items. That you'll need, the testimony items basically. Here we go. Let's just say warrior's testimony. We'll add one of these, and I also will need to start the player. Let's just take the first actor here. Let's start him with 9,000 JP, and we can add another testimony to paste. and we'll just add, I think he'll be monk by default, so we'll actually add that to show you how it would work if you're already monk. And we'll do white mage right there. We'll add those 3 testimony items with the 3,000 for each job. In order to get this to work, let me show you first, and then I'll show you how I made it work. Alright, hopefully the music doesn't... Oh wait, where did I put it? Did I already get it? Items. Where was that? Okay, right above where I started at. So probably right here. Got those items. Oh, they're key items, right? Artifact token. There we go. We've got the testimonies. You see, maybe you haven't seen some of these new icons added. I changed the icon setup quite a bit. I think we have 2 musics playing, so let's pause this while we have the in-game music playing. So we have 2. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, 2 music playing. I added new icons to the icon set. Originally, it's funny. I had found a bunch of different icons. I think there were 24,000 pixels, and if every icon is 32, divide that by 32, and you'll get how long the file was. It was something by 24,000. So it was a very, very large file, and it's funny because it actually worked. And I had, you know, thousands and thousands of icons, and they would show on the weapons, on the armors. But when I went into the Gashapon system to draw artifacts, I added a little animation right there, like to show you zooming, beaming up right there. It's kind of cool. But when, so remember I was telling you about that plugin, one of Yanfly's plugins, the show balloon icons one. So when I added a giant icon set, when I amended it to, and it was a giant icon set, it would show that icon right there, but it would be just a black box. So there is a limit. I found the limit to 24,000 is way too far. I cut that in half, and I think it's at like 9,000 pixels right now of how long the Y value is on something by 24,000, 9,000 something. I could actually look at it. I'll do that after this. I'll show you the icon set. You can draw artifacts here. Check out the Gashapon system. I'm pretty sure most of you have already seen this system, so we're gonna just bounce out of it real quick. Okay, yeah, we got that. Not right now. So when we say not right now, we're just teleported back. Let's look at how I'm handling changing jobs. So you can change job, but I removed all of the jobs from the parameters in the plugin, which I can show you that too. I might as well, because I'll probably forget how you would do that. I'd probably forget to show you how to do that if you don't already know. So when you have your class change core, if you want to allow certain jobs that are unlocked from the beginning, there's a parameter called unlock classes inside here. And if you want to say have warrior, which in my case is class 11, you would just go warrior, and then we could say monk, and then you just add numbers. You don't need commas or anything. Just type in the numbers, and then those classes will be unlocked for all the characters by default. So I had to remove all of those so that only the class that the character or actor starts with is unlocked from the beginning of the game. So right now, Edmund's a monk. He starts as a monk, so he has the ability to change into the monk job, but that's the only one he has. So he can't actually change into any other jobs. But how I'm doing the skill learning system, how I'm using the skill learning system with the class change core is I created a skill, which I showed you in the database. That's basically, once you know that skill, it's created as a passive, but it's not a passive state. So there's no states that's going to lag you. If you remember some of my previous videos, I talked about how adding too many passive states will lag you a whole lot. So there is a limit to how many passive states you can have. So I went around it, and there are no passive states being really used with the job learning system to switch jobs. We're using the skill learning system and the class change core and some note tags. So what you can do is you learn skills, and we'll talk about this next, the stat bonus and how it works. But you can see that all of the classes have every other class a skill that could unlock every other class except for their own. So I had to do this with splitting the note tags up. So with Monk, I didn't have to do that because it was the first one. Or no, with Warrior, I didn't have to do that because it was the first one, but the rest of them I did. So I have 2 testimonies, right? I gave myself the Monk, 3 testimonies. I gave myself the Monk's testimony, the Warrior's testimony, the White Mage testimony. So, and I also started with 9,000 JP by adding the note tag to the actor. So I have the ability to unlock the Warrior, unlock the White Mage, and we see if we go to the job changing system, we don't have that option there. But if we learn the skill, we have to select what class we're trying to learn the skills for. So we say learn skills for Monk, because every actor is going to be able to have all of the classes if they want to unlock all of them. So let's say unlock the Warrior. So we have all of the items we need. I also added a note tag that'll show basically the description right here as well. Why not, right? So let's unlock that. We're going to spend 3,000 JP and a Warrior's testimony. Unlock Warrior. And now if we go to, well, we can already see that we're on the skill learning system. Once we unlocked it, it automatically, without having to exit the menu to refresh, it automatically gave me the ability to learn skills for Warrior, because now we have the Warrior unlocked. As well as if we go to, if we select job, we're able to switch into another job. And you can see our stats went down quite a bit because we were starting at level 30 and then we went to level 1. If we go to skill, we can look at our limit burst, our warrior abilities, and our learn skills. And let's talk about how I'm handling the stats now. So all characters are going to be given from 1 to 10 in each parameter stat gains per level. And I'm using that with a plugin from Yanfly. And I think I'll go ahead and continue with that method of doing things as I say, oh, I'll tell you in a minute, I'll tell you in a minute. I usually forget something. So as I mention them, I'll go off on a side tangent and show you. So what I'm doing to make that work is using, is it base parameter control? I know that's part of it, but it's not. It's class-based parameters. So this doesn't have any basically parameters in the plugin, but it basically gives you note tags and ways for you to define your custom parameters and how you want. So you can go to the help file here and copy this custom parameters list, and you could even create formulas, like crazy complex formulas for all of your parameters. Right now they're pretty simple. They might be changed later, but I'll take a look at those for you. We look at the class for, say, we're monk right now, or warrior. I'm using that note tag custom class parameters, and we're defining the maximum HP, and we're setting it. Here's the formulas I'm using, nothing crazy. Level times a set number, depending on what class you are. They'll be probably from basically 60 to 200 plus a static amount, a base amount that all you want to give a little bit at the beginning for the first level. That way, you know, if they're a low amount, for example, I'm pretty sure the summoner, I haven't done the summoner yet for that, the white mage or the black mage, they have quite a bit less. They're only going to get 100 times the level. So at level 1 they'd only have 100 HP. That's not a lot. There's a lot of abilities even at level 1 that could cause that much damage. So giving like a bonus, a plus 100, so their level times 100 plus 100. And the same thing for their MP, except the MP will usually be a much smaller amount. You know, in most games it's like that. But for certain classes like Warrior, Monk, and Thief, and Ranger, they're not going to get any MP at all. And I'm actually using a note tag and a plugin, another plugin from Yanfly, that gets rid of the whole MP gauge. So for Monk, they don't have any MP, so I don't really need them to have an MP bar at the bottom, right? One less thing to make it look cleaner. So I'm using swap gauge 2, which is your MP bar, and I'm setting it to null. And that's going to basically remove it. I can go swap gauge 2 1, and that'll make it show your HP where your MP is, but just make it cleaner. Simple right there. And so here we're back to the defining the parameters, the formulas I'm using. We're using level times 0 because anything times 0 is 0, so they don't need any as a monk. They don't need any MP basically. Because how I'm handling the abilities, I'm setting them to instance. And we'll look at skills in a second too. Actually, let's do that since I'm mentioning it. So how I'm doing their skills, these are enemy skills. How I'm handling all of their skills is I'm setting them using a Yanfly plugin to an instant, so that they'll happen, most of them anyway, will happen as an instant. So it's not going to take up their turn. If they still want to use a limit burst or if they still want to attack, you're going to be able to do that. In order to make this not overpowered and have some sort of balance to it, all of the skills, especially those with instants, are going to have a cooldown value. So that's another plugin from Yanfly. So they'll be able to boost, increasing the power of their next attack by 15%, and they'll do that instantly. So you don't spend one turn boosting and that's all you did that turn. You boost and then you attack, but then you can't boost again for another 5 turns. And that's sort of how it's going to work. And the 2-hour quote-unquote moves are all 30 cooldowns, so they're not going to be used a whole lot. They're not going to be abused really, because they're super powerful. For one, this one's going to be giving 3 extra turns, 3 extra swings, sorry. So the monk's going to already get 2 extra, it's already going to get 1 extra, so the monk's going to come in and go blam blam. But if we 100 Fist, which is an instant, we'll still be able to attack that turn. So we start our 100 Fist, that's a cooldown of 30 turns, but then we can go blam blam, blam blam blam, and hit them 5 times. So that's a pretty cool 2-hour quote-unquote ability. So that's how I'm handling all of their skills. You can see most of the skills are going to have a 10 cooldown. Some of them will have 5, some of them will have a little bit more or less. But they will all be instant, they'll all have a cooldown, and I'm trying to keep the descriptions nice and clean so the player knows what these skills do, trying to keep everything looking good. Also providing more information as to, like, in the description it'll tell you how many rounds of cooldown it's supposed to have. Also creating custom animations for all of the skills. You can see in the animation tab here, as I go down, they've all got their own animation, and by naming the animation the same thing as the skill that it's created for, it helps you stay organized, because you can see this is an animation for 100 Fists, this is an animation for boost. A lot of these animations I'm not super happy with, actually. Even though they look okay, I'm going to change a lot. But instead of just dwelling on one animation for hours and hours, I kind of say, okay, that's a placeholder for now, and I'm going to come back to it, hopefully. And that's the same thing for most of the spells. Some of the lower level spells like Cure, they don't have a cooldown. Now, if you get to Cure 2, you see the cooldowns start to come in. So the higher power spells are definitely going to have longer cooldowns, as to not make weaker skills never used. So you're definitely going to use your higher level skills first, but then once they're on cooldown, you're going to start resorting to your weaker skills, utilizing your whole catalog of skills, not just your highest skills, you know. Getting Cure 3 doesn't make Cure 2 and Cure 1 pointless, because if you use Cure 3, well, you have to wait 5 turns before you can use it again. So in that time, you'll have the ability to do Cure 2, and then if you use up all your cures and you're still needing more curing, you have Cure 1 with no cooldown, because White Mage that can't Cure 1, and they're not going to have probably too much attack. So not every skill is going to have a cooldown, but cooldowns are going to be how I handle using most of the skills and spells as well. But you could also see that these are not instant. So the spells are not going to be instants. Most of them anyway. I don't think I have any instant spells. All the spells are going to require taking up the turn as if they were attacking or they were using a limit burst. But the skills, the basic skills, are going to be instant, and I think that's a good way to handle it. So in order to differentiate all of these things, and another thing that I came across, sort of like a bug that maybe it's not a bug, maybe it's intentional, but it's something that I found to not kind of work the way I want it to work. Say I have Monk to level 30, and Monk has say, well, they have the ability to use special, like it's a type called special, right? And it's not a skill, it's just a class, and in that class you have several abilities, you know, like say sprint or something. I'm just throwing them off the top. But if you give the warrior that ability to use the type of special, even at level 1, that warrior is going to have that sprint ability that would require a monk at 30 or something. So that's not kind of how I want it to be. I don't want the warrior to be able to use level 30 monk skills at level 1. So here's a way you get around that. Very simple. A simple way to find a workaround was to give each one of your classes its own type. So in the database here, we see that we have lots of skill types now. So for each class, I'm creating a type called warrior ability, monk ability. I'm giving it its ability class. So this is going to be the type holder for all of the instant abilities, and not all of the abilities are instant, like I said, but most of them are. So this is going to be the way to stop the monk, or stop the warrior, level 1 warrior, from using level 30 monk abilities, because they have their own class. So even if I want to give them the same skill, it would be really easy to do. I could show you how to do that. So you're giving it your own class, and you say you want this warrior to get cure, but the cure is part of white magic. All you do is copy it and you paste it and you put it in a different class. So now the monk will have cure if you let them learn cure. Right? So that's that simple, and it's just kind of organizing it and categorizing your skills, and that lets you reuse some of your skills in different types. So I have a lot of skills, like for example cure. White mage isn't the only one who uses cure, right? So we have the skill type of white mage, white magic here for cure. But if we scroll down and we look for black mage, doesn't get it, but red mage will. Passives, most of those are not being used anymore. I wish MV would run faster and maintain 60 when you're stacking lots of passives, but it doesn't. So I copy pasted cure into red magic here. So if a white mage cast cure and a red mage cast cure, I don't think they should be the same, right? And they as I just explained, they need to be in their own different type. Otherwise, the red mage would either never get cure or be able to learn all of the white mage abilities and skills at level 1, as long as they already have the white mage unlocked. So we tiered it into its own class of red mage, so it's the same spell, but it's in the skill type of red magic. But the red mage is sort of like the jack of all trades. Now we're going into just sort of like class explanation, class discussion. So you have your white mage is really strong with healing magic, and you have but doesn't use any attack magic basically besides banish or dia. So very different, lesser attack magics. And you have a black mage who doesn't use cure, and they don't have any healing magic, but they have lots of attack magic. Red mage is sort of in the middle. It sort of has some attack magic, but their attack magic isn't as strong as the black mage's attack magic. And they have some healing magic, but their healing magic isn't as strong as the white mage's healing magic. So how do you get around creating a similar spell but make it not as strong, even though you want it to look the same name and cost the same? Well, you just copy paste it, put it in a different skill type like I've done here. You can keep the same cost like I have, or you can do whatever you want with it, but you change the formula. It's that simple. So if we look at the cure formula for the red mage, it's 75 plus the caster's level plus the caster's magic defense. If we go up to the white mage and we look at the white mage's cure one, wait, I went way too far. White mage's cure to, where is it at? So now it's 200 times the caster's level times 2 plus the caster's magic defense. So the white mage's healing magic is going to be stronger than the red mage's healing magic. Has the same description, has the same MP cost, but it's going to be stronger when the white mage uses it compared to when the red mage uses it. And you can do this the same way for like paladin or any other classes that would use similar skills. You can see how you can make this work with the skill learning system, and have the same skills for different classes, and they just have different formulas. They even have the same animations. So I'm using custom animations for as many things as possible, but sometimes when something's broke, you don't want to fix it, right? Yanfly already made a really nice icon set, or I'm sorry, well, he did that too, but set of animations in his project. So I did take that as well, as I've already said this before. Yanfly made a really nice, better than the default one, set of animations, and so I don't know how many's here. 265. What do we got? From the top, 191 or 265. So you know, around 100 or so animations, and a lot of them are really nice. So I'm using some of them, of course, because like I said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Some of the skills that are using those are being used as placeholders, and a lot of stuff is subject to change, as with any project. Don't really need to say that, as that's a given. But anyway, going back into the game, you saw how I was handling the the where you learn a skill and with the skill learning system to change your job. But I want to show you some possible things that could be that could cause problems. And the ways that I've gone about fixing that. So, if you're a monk and you have the ability to learn, unlock jobs, where am I at? Here we go. Skill learning. You have the ability to unlock jobs with, oh, I know why it's not showing, because I didn't actually get those items I threw on the ground. Unlock jobs with a skill. I still didn't pick them up. Anyway, then you don't want the player to waste JP and waste testimonies letting the player unlock a job that they are already playing or they already have. So it wouldn't make sense for me to include monk right here in between warrior and white mage, because he's already a monk. So the monk shouldn't have the ability to learn monk. I actually do need to pick those items up off the ground. They are somewhere right here, so I can demonstrate what happens. There we go. Alright, so in order to fix that, you basically just remove the note tag that would allow them to learn that skill in the skill learn system. Easy peasy. I'll show you how to do that. So on the actor itself, or it's the classes. It's the classes itself, yeah. On the classes, when you're using the skill learning system, a lot of you already know, you just add a note tag for the classes, learn skill, and you put in the skill number, or you put in from this number to this number. So this is for the parameters, which I'll get back to right now. So instead of going learn skill 48 to 69, which are those skills that let you unlock classes, 548 to 569. I'm looking at the monk right here, and he is the skill to unlock monk would be 549. So on the monk, I don't want to allow them to learn skill number 549, which is for the monk. So I just split up 548 to 569, and I got rid of that by making it into two. I got rid of 549 by making two note tags. So I got learn skill 548 and then learn skill 550 to 569. So that lets them learn all of the jobs except for the job they're on. This is just a safeguard. This is safeguarding your players from wasting their points. So you don't want to you never want to frustrate your players. Well, sometimes you do, but not for this. Not this kind of way. What else was I was gonna say something about the stats, right? So how I'm handling the stats that are you can basically use your JP to unlock classes or improve your parameters. Maybe other things later on, but that's what I see for now. So you can spend your JP to add HP or MP or add strength, but Yanfly put out not too long ago a way to increase the cost of every one of these, because what happens a lot of the times, players will find the meta of the game and they'll say what stat is the most valuable point for point, and then they'll stockpile most of their points on that point to maximize the min-max, you know, to min-max it. So in order to get around that and make the player distribute their points a little more evenly, doesn't mean that they would want to go mainly one for one in all of them, They'd probably focus on strength if they want to use this character as more of a fighter, the fighting jabs or whatever. But anyway, you can see the learn skill cost here is 200 JP, right? And we have 9,000. So if I spend 200 JP and I learned 50 HP, my max HP went up from 5800 to 5850. But now what's changed? You can see that the cost of 200 switched to 400. And now there's more incentive to learn to get more MP or strength or wisdom, because it's half the cost of for 50 MP. But say you need a lot of HP, you'll go ahead and do it again. Well, now it's 600 to go to the next one. Now it's 800 to go to the next one. So you're going to get not really, well, it is technically diminishing returns. It's not, no, it's technically not diminishing returns, because that would provide less and less and less. I don't know. It's one way or the other, but you can see what's happening here. You're having to pay more for the same amount, so maybe it is diminishing returns. Whatever. But what if? How does this work exactly? Well, I have to go to learn skills and then select the job that I want to increase my stats. Well, if I switch jobs, are those stats going to stay on the actor, or are they going to be learning stats just for monk? Well, how it works is when you increase your stats, they're actor based. So no matter what job you switch to, you're going to have that bonus 50 HP on, even if you switch to a level 1 job. It's going to get that bonus from whatever your stats are. So if we go monk and we've already added a bunch of, let's do something like MP won't matter, right, on the monk. But I can still learn it, because if I switch this monk into a black mage, the black mage is going to benefit from all of the max MP bonuses that I've got on another job. So that's how that's sort of how it'll work. So another question that might pop up is, well, since they cost more each time, if I try to learn the stats on a different job, is it going to reset? No, it's going to basically be the same, because it's actor based. So let's demonstrate that. Let's go to job. Actually, we want to learn skills for monk. We're going to unlock warrior, and we'll demonstrate this. So now that we have the warrior unlocked, we can like that. We can go to warrior, and we can see that the cost, now we're on the warrior's learning skills for the warrior, right? And another thing, you can see that as a warrior, let's see. Well, I didn't change my job to warrior. I'm just learning skills for warrior. But you can see, even though I'm a monk, spending my JP to unlock monk isn't there, right? Because we no longer have because we already have, what am I talking about? Because we already have monk. So there's no reason for the player to waste their JP trying to unlock monk on this actor. However, if we go to a different job, let's go to the black mage here, a different actor rather, and we look at the black mage, and we go to the skills for the black mage, and we try to learn skills for the black mage. Monk is here because this actor is a black mage and doesn't have monk unlocked already. But you can see that they don't have black mage, the possibility to waste their points on black mage. So we're safeguarding our players from wasting their points. And the stat points are based on the actors. They're not global for like you learned it on one and they all get it. Of course, that's pretty evident, right? So this is a different actor now, so we could start off at 200, then 400, and go up. These other actors only started with 1,000 because that's what I'm normally starting with. I did change the note tag to let this player, this actor, have more JP so that I can demonstrate some things. But that's sort of how the job change system is going to be working in this game. If we switch jobs to warrior, then our JP changes. But we could still spend JP from one job into another job to increase our stats, since they're gonna be they're basically actor based, so it doesn't really matter. You know what I'm saying? you could spend JP from any job to unlock other jobs, and you could spend JP from any job to increase the stats, because the stats are independent of what class or job your character is. So hopefully that makes clears up some questions about anybody might have on how the systems work and how they work together. I think it's pretty cool. I like how it's really coming together, and the mechanics behind it and how they work. Hopefully you guys like that too. Let's go back into the database and look at some of the other stuff that's been added. So we can see all the skills, the parameters. Are there any note tags that you might want to have questions about? Yeah, let's look at this equip slot here. So I'm using another Yanfly plugin. I'm using most of Yanfly's plugins because they're awesome and they're very compatible with other things. In this instance, it's called equip. I'm using a note tag called equip slot, and what this does, similar to what another plugin from HeMeWorks did a long time ago, but this one's a little more streamlined. It gives a little more control and less overhead. I think because you don't have to put as many note tags as, and there's a lot less learning using this plugin as to other plugins that do similar features. So basically, what this does is it lets me define based on the class what skills, or I'm sorry, based on the class what equipment slots are available to that class. Now, obviously, you don't want your let's say your white mage to have like shoulder pads, right? Maybe some of you do in some games. Like I know there's a lot of games that do that, but in this game, there's certain things that one class will get that the other classes won't. For example, black mage is not going to have the ability to use a shield at all. So to stop that from happening, all you have to do is use equip slot and not allow the shield in there by just not adding the shield. So how this works is in your types, you have all your equipment types on the right hand side here. We got weapon, shield, head, earring. You can see the list of them down there all the way. I also thought of a really cool way to implement a Final Fantasy VI style Esper system, but I have to test it and actually implement it. But it's basically going to be the same way. You're going to equipment types, and you're going to create it as an equipment type, and you're going to basically use the. I'll make a tutorial on that later if I ever get it polished. But anyway, you basically write your equipment types down, and then you list them. You have to type them verbatim. So you just, if you want to add a ring slot, you go to your classes and under equip slot, which is the opening, and then you close it off with the slash equip slot, typical JavaScript stuff. You would just type ring. So if you wanted this particular, say you made a class called the Ring Master, right? And he can equip 10 rings. Well, all you'd have to do is type ring, and then when you look at the character on their equipment screen, you're going to see all of those slots, and you're going to be able to equip that many of that. So it's really cool. You could even equip multiple weapons. You could have it's a really neat plugin. You guys should get it. It's simple. It's very easy to use too. Yanfly's plugins are pretty awesome. Another thing, since I'm using the class change core, I'm using a note tag inside the class here, which is just going to define the icon, right? So I'm creating the note tag icon, colon, and then the number. So speaking of icons, since we're moving down anyway, let's take a look at the icon set. So anyway, that was 71 for that. So that was the black mage, I think. So the black mage is going to have this icon. I might change all these anyway. But let's take a look at the icon set that I'm using here. So this is the starting off with the freebie one that Yanfly created with, with all the potions, and this stuff right here is stuff I created messing around in Photoshop, and also from this stream of icons was taken from a free set that I found for a different game altogether. And I like it when people do the free licensing on their stuff, because it really lets their work continue. And this was stuff I created with Photoshop, and then later on Yanfly released these in a different, so I added these from Yanfly. This row I created in Photoshop by taking the coins and the large orb, by taking these two icons and putting one on top of the other, give a different tier. All of that was created by Yanfly though, besides that one row. Once again, this was created by Yanfly. I've got some free space here. I just noticed I can add more stuff. I thought I really need more icons at this point. But this was added when Yanfly created the weapons animation plugin, or slightly prior to that. But I thought this was the beginning of me creating all of the ore types. It's sort of, I think I was sort of inspired by all of the stuff that Yanfly did with creating all of the icon sets and stuff, and it sort of made me want to make a tier system of different ores. And then I made that mining system because Akashic put out some cool battlers, and one of the Akashic's battlers looked like a pile of ore that you would mine instead of a slime, so I used it for that. It just tinted it for different tiers. Yeah, check out the mining system if you're interested in what I'm talking about. Then I created these using Yanfly's icon generator, which I made a couple tutorials on how to use it. This took a long time, really. I don't know, maybe I was being perfectionist or what it was. They don't even look super amazing or whatever, but you see in the top left corner of these icons, if I would have outputted this at a higher resolution, you would have seen a lot of detail. And then, like in this top left corner, there's a bubble that's got another icon inside of that represents the element it's supposed to affect. I don't know. I really went all out, especially with these amulets and these robes. But then when you minimize that all the way down into, like, what is this, 32 by 32, something like that, it really you lose it, and it just looks like a little bubble. You can't really tell that this was, a really cool earth rock art inside of a yellow sphere. And same thing for that one. You can't tell that this was a flame inside of a bubble. But anyway, it's still there, even though it's at such a small resolution. I made all of these with icons with the Yanfly's icon generator. Moving down, I created all of these as well. I originally was going to do like a bracelet, sit like another equipment slot, but I ended up taking out a lot of the equipment slots that I was using. I had like 2 rings, 2 earrings, bracelets, just a lot of extra stuff, and I already have a lot of equipment slots. If you want to check it out, I could show you in game. I could do that after we get through with the icon set. The players already have plenty of slots for their gear to upgrade to, and plus many of those can be augmented and enchanted, which I like Yanfly's new systems, new plugins that let you sort of what are they called? I just added them not too long ago, but it basically lets you bring up a menu that shows use the weapons or the items out of battle, and lets the player select one. Got that. I haven't really messed with it yet, but I know what I want to do with it. Yeah, map select equip, map select skill. This was the one he just added. This is a really cool plugin, guys, because you're going to be able to give the player options to use different weapons and items like on other items. Like you come up to a door, right? And if you have the key, you can easily do a condition that checks if they have the key and opens the door to do blah, 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 right? But what if you come across a wall and the player doesn't know what they're supposed to do to make the wall open up? So you can open up a menu and show them all of their items, and maybe one of the items they found will fit in a certain area or react to glyphs on the wall. So it really opens up a lot of things. So the player will open up in game. You'll see a menu open up, and the player will have to pick one of their items. And depending on what item they pick, it'll store that item's number in a variable, which is cool because now you can reference that variable in the event itself and make conditional statements saying, well, if this variable number is, say, 7, and then the hieroglyphs dagger is the number 7, equipment weapon number 7, then it'll match up. So you can say condition, if it's 7, then you can script what'll happen, show animation, sound effects, the wall open, show text, and then you can switch to another page, and on the else handler you can see a text box that says nothing appears to happen at all, or your party gives you a funny look, So it's really cool plugins, but what I want to use these plugins to do is create an enchanting system. I don't know, gonna reference way back in the day to when there was a MUD called the Realm Online. It was created by Sierra. It was sold to Codemasters, and then it was set off in an auction. And Norseman Games, most terrible company in the world, bought it. They spent their family savings and they bought it, and they ran the game into the ground, and it's simmering now. It's still burning. I can't believe it's still actually live. There's like 50 people who play it still, but I remember it was great. There's thousands of people. It was before MMOs were a thing. It was like the first MMO that wasn't an MMO. It was a multi-user dungeon. But there was referencing back to that, there was a cool system in that game, the Realm Online. If you want to look it up. There's actually some articles on it just saying about how it's one of the oldest, the longest running games in multi-user dungeons / MMOs in history. Okay, to the point, I promise. There was this enchanting system. So it was based on your intelligence modifier, which was called SDM, spell damage modifier, which would take into account a few different things. Your meditation skill, because you had skills that can go from 1 to 5, and depending on your skills, it's like you had familiar, proficient, expert, master, and grandmaster, and those were like the tiers for all of the skills. But there were some skills that changed your spell damage modifier, like meditation was one of them. It gave you an extra 15% bonus. So you can increase your intelligence to the maximum as possible based on having the best gear and creating a race like an elf, which would be the highest possible intelligence, and then creating a wizard, which had the highest possible intelligence, and then maxing out all of your sorcery, all of your meditation, and then that would max out your after getting rings of intelligence, amulet of intelligence, and then certain things like the mage hat, that would let you max out your SDM to the highest possible number. And then those people were famous because they had achieved highest SDM, and they were the only people who had the best rates, because enchanting in the Realm Online had permanent effects. When you enchanted a weapon, there was a % chance that the weapon blows up and it's disintegrated. So you could spend hours and hours or days or weeks trying to find this cool, whatever sword called the Wrath or whatever, any item, your boots, almost all of your gear, basically all of your gear could be enchanted. Except for your backpack. Oh no, you could enchant that too, actually. Anyway, so you could have these extremely rare items, but they were considered clean. They had no enchantments, so they're subpar, right? They're not as good as even lower level items that have enchantments. So when you found these cool items, you wanted to sell them. There was no trade system in the Realm Online, so it was really interesting, because you had to find these people like that were working as middlemen or middlewomen, and they were like the gatekeeper between two people. So reputation in the Realm Online was a big thing. There was no like formal trading system. You had to either trust the person, because somebody had to hand first. Right? Somebody had to say, okay, I believe you're going to pay me back for this, or you're going to give me what you're saying you're going to give me. Here's the item. So that player could either take it and scam it, but nobody would even know who's telling the truth if they did that, right? So reputation was huge, and there was this thing where people would build up their reputation, and then on a big deal they would scam. And sometimes they would brag about it, and sometimes they would play it off as if that didn't happen. Oh, he handed me a piece of bread instead of this dagger or whatever. It was an immensely fun game. It's too bad I got ran into the ground. But going back to this, you still had to find somebody who you could trust to enchant your gear, right? To not blow it up, because they could still blow it up, but when people blew things up, it'll say disintegrates into white hot flashes. So you knew when it blew up. But there was a cool system. So you would enchant an item, and the first time you open it up as an enchantment, you could put multiple enchantments on an item. And every consecutive enchantment would make it that much harder for it to land and open up the enchantment. So all of the spells you learn that you could learn, or most of the spells, not even most, like say half of the spells that you learn, could be used to be put onto a weapon permanently. So there was a spell called Flame Blade, right? And you cast it on player, and then it adds like a state that will give you a fire to your attacks for a certain number of turns. However, if you enchanted that Flame Blade onto a weapon, it permanently changes that weapon so that every attack always gives fire attack, and you don't have to recast it ever again. It stays there permanently. However, there's a % chance when you try to open the enchantment that it would blow up and you would lose that weapon or piece of gear. So it was a very, very interesting system, and it was sort of like a gambling thing, but you could stack multiple enchantments and really max your character out to have the most possible potential. But I really went off on a tangent on that, but it was one of my favorite games growing up. We're talking like 20 years ago, guys. This was a long time ago. I was just a little wee one. Oh, okay. I want to recreate that enchanting system. That would be really cool. And this plugin, the map select equip, it sort of gives me the ability to do that, as well as map select skill. It's still I still haven't got it all worked out, and I don't know exactly how I'm going to answer some questions I have, but I'm going to figure it out because it's such a cool idea, and it has uh, it gives the player a reason to find the same item more than once, right? Because maybe you don't want to enchant your item the first time you find it because it's so powerful even without enchantments that you don't want to risk losing it. But say you find it a second time, not a big deal, right? If you already have it, but now you can try to enchant it because if you blow it up, you still have your backup one. But if you get it enchanted, then you've made an upgrade. You've got to the next. You've got those extra status bonus points there. Just some ideas that I was thinking about using that plugin for. Awesome plugin. Thank you so much, Yanfly. All right, so we still have some more things. I know we're touching on an hour, but I think this is long overdue, and some of you have been asking me about it. Lolstar, I'm looking at you, my friend. I'm looking at you. I know you want first impressions. Hey, they're a lot harder to do. Just to reference, I'm doing this at 3:48 a.m. when there are no kids screaming. There's nobody making noise in the background. A lot of videos have been ruined, guys, and I don't want to post videos where there's a lot of background noise. Anyway, let's go down the skills. So this is some more weapon skills that I'm using. So let's talk about the introduction of specialized enemy skills. So enemies aren't going to be boring like they are in a lot of games, where they just have attack or maybe they have a couple skills. All of the enemies in this game are going to have just a slurry of custom skills, at least three. So skills don't have to be like super grandiose. They can be simple things like dive or peck or wing or rush or kick, or spit or bite, slither, you know, uh, one word skills. It's plenty fine. Give them a custom animation, give them a custom icon, give them a custom name, a custom formula, assign them a certain number of elements. And I said it a long time ago, I say it to this day, the element core from Yanfly is to date still one of my favorite plugins of all plugins because it gives a lot of customization when it comes to defining what a skill is and how it operates. Because the whole setting up a skill can only be one element is just stupid. So I think that Element Core, Yanfly's Element Core, should be something that was built into the engine from scratch. How I think it should have worked is there should be a number in this little box right here, and you can select a number of elements that this thing is. And then whatever number you select will bring another list down. I don't know if they'll find room for it. I'm sure that they could have changed the UI around to make this work, or a box will pop up, select your number of elements, and then opens up a box, a little sub menu. And then you put in a number, and whatever number you put in, from say 1 to 10, I don't know why you would need more than 10 elements. You can create an element called all elements if that's a thing. But 1 to 8 or 1 to 10. Most of my skills are 2, 3, sometimes 4. Some of them are 1, but most of them are 2 or 3. And you can have it show a number. You select on element, it opens up a menu, and then you click on that, you select a number, and then whatever number you select will give you this sort of thing, but times however many numbers you selected in the first one. Then you can select all of those numbers. Then the damage will be calculated by multiplying, element type. The same way that you would calculate it in one of the states. If you want to calculate your damage based on a type, then element rate, that's the thing I was looking for. Then all of them will just be times target.element rate of this number, times this number, times this number, times this number. And that'll finally give you the final damage formula. So if they're strong against fire, but they're weak against water, and I don't know, you have a skill that does like fire and water, then it'll kind of change how it works, you know, if it's a multiple element skill. But anyway, talking about the element core, I want to give it a little more spotlight because I think it's something you should have. Um, there are there is one parameter. It's an important parameter though. It's basically how do you want multiple elements to be calculated? How do you want that damage to be calculated? Do you want it to just take the lowest value? Do you want to take it? Do you want them to add up? That's what I've done. Take if a skill item has multiple elements, then use these rulings. Lowest, add, multiply, highest, and average, and you just put a number right here. I use one. I have used two in the past, and I might change it, but right now I like how one is working. If you want a more detailed explanation of what that does and what number you should use, look at the help file. But basically, all of the things you're going to be doing is setting everything up with note tags, so you can apply bonuses to certain elements. You can add all kinds of different elements to a skill. So say you attack with the sword, right? It could be slashing damage. It could be physical damage. What if the sword's on fire? Well, now you're looking at fire damage. So shouldn't a flaming, a flaming katana be physical, fire, and slashing damage? You know, it only makes sense that it's actually all three of those things. So if you have to pick one or the other, it just doesn't make sense. Anyway, element core, guys, get it, got it, good. Moving on to, so I was talking about these enemy skills, right? These are the enemy skills, and they're nothing super fancy. They are basically, you create a custom animation for it. I already went over this, and I made a bunch of them. So when I create my design process, I guess I've still got a lot more to make, but these are some basic ones that I've already made right here. My design process, you guys seen in the preview video, I'll put it up in the card somewhere. This battle, you guys saw me do this battle. Very simple event, how I did it. And I can't figure out a way, and even looking on Yanfly's tips and tricks, like he's already saying, hey, don't ask me how to do this because it requires another plugin to make it work. To do like waves of enemies, you know, like you beat these enemies, the battle doesn't end, but the new enemies come in, and it's not like just being replaced, because when you do replacing them, it changes the experience and the gold gained at the end of the total combat, and it's kind of screwy. So instead of doing the enemy waves like I want to do, similar to the way Final Fantasy Record Keeper does it, you just make a battle process after battle process after battle process event. So in this one, this little comment is for the mini note tag to show the name on the location, so the player knows there's something there and what it is. When they access it, it shows this little, hey, this is the boss. It's a level 5 roaming minotaur, and you'll get bonus artifact token for afflicting it with blind. Because that's the strategy behind it. I'm giving you the strategy on how to beat the boss right at the beginning. So it's up to you if you want to zerg it or if you don't. But if you do, you'll get an extra reward for beating it the right way. You know, also you're going to make it easier on yourself if it's a challenging fight. Now, obviously, you might come back here when you're way higher level just to farm it for these tokens, and that's the idea. So this fight is still useful if you want to kill it, but you can't just hit it in one hit. You'll have to land the blind on him to farm it, you know, so there's some strategy involved. You can't just kill everything in one hit, even though you possibly could. So after that, we're saving the background music to recall it later. We're playing a certain battle, background music, because we're about to start combat. We're changing the battle background, we're changing the battle's background music, we're controlling a self switch to this page. When they say no, they don't want to fight, then nothing happens. Now that we're on page 2, because self switch A is on, it's going to automatically go to this page. The Yanfly, what do you call it? Mini event label, words, use your words, is still there. At the top, we're going to battle process. And when you do battle processing, I had a question about this. Somebody asked me earlier today. He's how do I stop my party members from having 1 HP after battle? Every time I try to get them to die, they're still alive after the combat with 1 HP. Well, if you're the person who asked me that and you're watching this, I did respond to you. But anyway, you can click on uncheck can lose. Because when you check on can lose, which is probably checked, because maybe you're thinking, well, I want the player to game over, right? Well, if you want it to game over when they lose, then can lose should not be checked. Maybe it's counterintuitive. You don't want them to be able to lose, because if they can lose, they're going to be alive. But if they can't lose, when they die, they're dead, and that's game over, right? So can escape is checked, and can lose is checked, because I don't want to KO the party and game over the party. I'm designing this as a system of challenges. The player does what he wants to do. He or she does what they want to do. They try to do this battle, and if they I don't want to try to make it where they have to do all the reloading and this and that, because there are special save conditions, which I'm going to get into next. So I'm allowing the player to take on challenges that think they might lose, because it's not going to be game over if they do. They'll actually keep the rewards for that fight, except for the one they died on. I'm also checking can escape. So once again, dude who's asking me about it, if you want it to KO, you want it to be game over when they die, you uncheck can lose. Right? But by checking these boxes, you're creating, because battle processing is a conditional statement, because outcomes have to happen. There's not one thing that could happen. You could die, which is lose. You could escape, you could run away from combat, or you could win. So by creating an input battle processing, you're creating a conditional statement. So if you're checking these boxes, you're adding like else handlers, you're adding branches to that conditional statement, right? So if you don't want any conditional statement, you don't care if they die, you don't care if they if they die, it's game over, and you don't want them to escape, and if they win, then the next thing happens, you just uncheck those, right? But in this instance, for this event, I want these options to be there so I can customize the dialogue and the things that happen for each possible outcome. So I'm calling on this battle, which is a set of enemies. Let's look at that super fast. So how I'm handling my enemies is they're specific, but they're also randomized. So I've got these enemies that I've designed. So you can see that this dodo right here, which is using the enemy levels plugin. So I'm specifying that he could be level 1 or he could be up to level 5. He's going to be 1 above or 2 lower or anywhere in between the party's level, but they'll never exceed level 5, and they'll never go, of course, level 0 or -1 doesn't even make sense, but for other levels that makes sense. So minimum 1, maximum 5. So I'm customizing this this enemy to be used for a certain area. Now that doesn't mean that you can only use this enemy for that area. You know, you could use this enemy again. You just have to copy it and paste it as I show right. Where's the other one? Boom. So you're going to encounter this enemy again. His stats are different. What he drops is different, slightly, just a higher rank. His skills are the same, but that's okay because his skills are based on his parameters. So he'll do more damage because his parameters are higher. Also, because he's being scaled using the formula that's in the enemy levels plugin, he's gonna have more parameters. He's gonna have more multipliers on his parameters. So he's gonna be quite a bit harder than the first one you encountered. Also, the note tags are different. So this guy is gonna be minimum level 20. Maximum level 25. So I'm recalling this enemy with different stuff. You know, same enemy, same skills, but different numbers, different items, and different levels. So that's how I'm handling it. But you also see that they all have different rates. So this diver dodo, as I'm doing with most birds, they're a little weak to ranged damage. So if you hit them with like a bow and arrow, or which don't exist in my game yet, but I just thought recently about why don't I add bow and arrow instead of forcing the ranger to use a gun, which is how it was. Because it makes sense for the corsair to use a gun, but it doesn't make sense for the ranger to have to use a gun, especially when I made his icon a bow. So that's the next thing I'm going to be doing, is adding bow and arrow and adding that to the gachapon system as well. But anyway, the dodo, you hit him with a bow and arrow or a gun or spells. Certain spells are set up as ranged damage as well. So they're weak to that. They're going to take 50% more damage from ranged. They're also going to take 25% more damage from lightning. You can see the things right here. 25% more damage from ice, and they're going to take a little less from water, a little less from earth, a little less from wind. These are all arbitrary, right? These are just what I think it should be. This doesn't mean this is how it should be for... they could all be changed as well. The rates stay the same between the levels, however, I could change them later on. The next one, this ram right here, you can see that they've got their own abilities, right? Peck, dive, and wing. and the ratings. If you don't know how ratings work and how it works, is basically um, whatever's the highest rating is going to be used the most, and then the number below that is going to be used. I forget exactly the percentage, but it's probably like 25% of the time, and then the wing is probably like 12 to 15% of the time. The rating 3, right? Now, if I were to add a skill that had a rating of 2, it would never be used. Why? I don't know. That's sort of how it works. The numbers themselves are arbitrary. If I change this number to 6, then this skill will never be used because it's more than 2 lower than the highest one, right? So if I change this to 5 and then this to 4, then you know what happens? Exactly the same thing as if this was 5, this was 4, and this was 3. So it's all relative and it's sort of arbitrary. I could set this to 52, a random number. Well, no, I think 10 is the highest, right? 9 is the highest. So I could set this to whatever number I want. But the skills that it's going to use is just completely dependent on the highest skill number. So if I set this to 9, it would only do peck because it wouldn't do anything that's 6 or below. So we'll set this back to 5. So you can change the ratings around. I'm pretty sure I went over it just so you know. I could set this to 3 and then this to 2 and this to 1, and exactly the same thing is going to happen as if it was 5, 4, 3. As far as I know, this is how it works, and if you know any tricks besides using Yanfly's AI core, which is really cool, but it's kind of complicated to use. I haven't spent a ton of time onto it. I should probably look at that a little bit more. For designing some of these boss battles that I have in store, I'm going to need to use the AI core in order to get it to work. Because you could also make conditionals on, say, I remember at the beginning of the video, I was saying how I don't know when I was referring to talking about in order to unlock jobs, you need the testimonies. In order to get the testimonies, you have to fight enemies, bosses that are basically that job. But I said I don't know if I'm going to give the 2-hour quote unquote 30 cooldown ability to these jobs, but maybe if I do, I'll do a conditional statement and blah 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 if they're under 15%. This is what I was talking about. If I wanted to do that and give them, we're just going to say this was the 2-hour ability, right? I was going to give it to them at the lowest rating, so 3, saying that they're still going to have a chance to use it because it's only 2 below. But also, I wanted a condition saying if the enemy's HP was between 0 and 15%, right? So now it'll have dual attack or mighty strikes or whatever skill. This is an example I'm going to delete. It'll do it, but only if its HP is under 15%. So this is how you can make customized conditions for your skills, and you can create all kinds of different ones. If they're under the state, do this. If they have on turn 1, they always do this. So you could do a lot of customization without using the AI core, but the AI core gives you a lot more control on how all that stuff works because it's a pretty basic system. But take a look into that and create some interesting fights. Definitely focus on making your enemies more fun to fight. Games without a battle system are just visual novels, and I know there could be some great visual novels out there. There are great visual novels out there. But RPGs, to me, in my opinion, have battle systems. Alright. So these are some of the custom enemies. Let's talk about some of the note tags, random note tags I have in here. So in here, I'm using this as a boss, right? And the boss has more abilities, right? So this is a boss that has 5 custom abilities. And a little bit more going on for the bosses. A lot more element rates. They're actually state resist, which does the same thing as element rate 0%. But it's just a special tag that means even if there are certain things that change the percentage number, it doesn't affect because it's state resist. So they can't be stunned. This boss can't be stunned, can't be poisoned, blind, disease, all that stuff. So you don't want your players to cheese the bosses that you designed, even especially if you're giving them good rewards for it. You kind of want them to fight them in a particular way, not making so that they have to fight them in that way, but you sort of want to steer them in the right direction. Like for example, this man-eater boss is going to be weak to wind, so it's going to take double damage from any attack that's got the wind element in it. So that's sort of, I think in this boss, I'm using a conditional drop. So if you want to get an artifact token, which is the thing you use to do the artifact draw, the Gashapon system, you want these because you're going to be able to get one random item out of 270 something items. Some of them are really, really powerful, and they're all tiered into 1 to 12 stars. So the player can, even if they don't know what the hell they got, they can say, oh, well, it's got a lot of stars on it, right? So it's probably pretty decent. But starting at the top, I'm using a note tag called static level. This is in the enemy levels plugin. This is going to make sure that the enemy is this level. So I know that the player is going to fight this boss on the second encounter where the enemies are level 5 to 10. So they're going to be taking on a challenge if they're skilling up or leveling up on this 5 to 10. We want the boss to be the highest level of the rank, right? So the boss is going to be level 10. Level fluctuation will still apply when you apply a static level, as far as I can tell. That might be different, but just to be sure that the boss is level 10, I'm putting another note tag that says level fluctuation 0. So it doesn't change level at all. Because the fluctuation is just a parameter that can be changed inside the plugin itself. Actually, let's take a look at that, since I'm kind of slowly going through lots of stuff that I feel like I owe you guys a little bit. Enemy levels plugin. I thought that was at the top. Am I mistaken on that? This is just a parameter inside the enemy levels plugin that is going to let you change the the level variance. Enemy levels. It's got to be somewhere. Here it is. All right. Hallelujah. All right. So here we go. Level setup, the default type. So the type, you look in the help file for a more detailed description. It's basically like, how do you want it to calculate what level the enemy is? You can look at the highest level in the party. You could look at the lowest level in the party. You could look at an average of aggregate of everybody who's in the battle. You can look at an aggregate of the average value of everybody who's in the whole party, even if they're not in battle. The type I'm using is the highest level in the battle. So if somebody is in your party as level 10, you got somebody as level 15, the enemies are going to be based on that level 15. However, all of my enemies have a minimum and maximum level, so the player is going to know about what range of enemies that they're fighting. Even if somebody's super high level, the enemies will cap out. So if you're farming up an event that's or a challenge that's 5 to 10, and you've got a level 20 in your party, well, they're still going to all be level 10, because maybe even with the fluctuation, so they could even go down to level 8. So it's kind of steered so that as you get stronger, not everything gets super stronger. Certain challenges will cap, and you will get that power fantasy, right? Of just this is how I play RPGs a lot of the time. I like to spend a little extra time grinding up and getting a little overpowered. So the fights are a little challenging, but I want to smash them, right? I still want to smash them. That's why I like the fights that have a lot of strategy involved, because a lot of the times I'm overpowered already. So just smashing them isn't quite as fun as like, well, I know I could just beat him in a few hits, but I need to do something. I have to paralyze him or something in order to get the whatever bonus. So I'm kind of I'm making the game, guys, I'm making the game I want to play. I want to play this game. And it's still got a long way to go, but it's getting more and more into the game I always wanted to play. And so I think it's definitely a passion project. It's a passion project. So, I'm going with 5, which I already talked about. If you want to change that, you can. But moving on to the fluctuation, you can decide how high or how low the enemies go based on whatever type you're using. So in my case, 5, we'll use it as an example. So if somebody in your party is level 10, and that's the highest level, and you got like 7, 7, 8, 10, then the enemies are going to be based on that level 10. So from that level 10, they're going to have a positive fluctuation of 1, so that means they could be 11 if they're not if they don't have a note tag that caps them as a maximum level 10. So they can go anywhere from 8 to 11 because we have negative fluctuation of 2. So if somebody is 10 and that's the highest level, they can go from 8, because it says 2, and the positive fluctuation up to 11. So 8 to 11 is the range for that. However, if you put note tags on the enemy themselves, then the note tags will override fluctuation that is listed inside the parameters of your enemy levels plugin. Awesome plugin, guys. Check it out. If you want even more control, you can change the growth rates. That I've changed it a little bit. I think I've changed it multiple times. I don't even know what the default is anymore. Does it show the default? No, it doesn't. But anyway, so the flat growth on these stats will give you that number each level. So if say you have a slime and he's level 1 and he's got 10 luck, since we're looking at luck. At level 11, he's going to have at least 11 luck because, or I'm sorry, at level 2, he's going to have 11 luck because he's getting that flat 1 stat growth. But then on top of that flat growth, you can change the formula so that it calculates differently. I like the default formula for that though. I'm not even going to touch it. So the luck, this is your percentage value. So let's say, you know, way later in the game, you've got a level 100 slime, and his stat is, let's say it's 1,000, right? And he levels up to 101. Well, this is going to add 5% of his value. Of the luck. So 1,000, 5% of 1,000 is what, 50? So at level 101, he's gonna have 1,050 luck. Hopefully that makes sense. This is just like think of this as a percentage, 0.0 whatever percent, you know. So this is 5% gain, 5% gain, 5% gain. I might have changed these from default. Excuse me. Something's up with my mute button. Alright, we've done a lot already in this episode. There are a few things I want to touch on. We'll finish this for one. Looking through the note tags here, I'm using note tags in this instance. I believe this is the note tag I copy pasted from the help file that I got from Akashix. If you guys don't know about Akashix, I'm pretty sure you do, as most of you know. He or she makes great art. I love the art that he or she makes. And I like the direction Akashix has taken her channel. I'm going to say her henceforth. I don't know if it's a guy or a girl. I like the direction that she's taken her channel because she's looking more towards animated battlers, right? Instead of just static enemies, which static enemies, they're okay, they're great, but when you start getting animated battlers, which I'm specializing them to be the bosses. So in all my boss fights, well, I'm pretty sure that I'll run out of them, which I need her to do more. That's why I'm backing her on Patreon. Guys, back at Kashix on Patreon. She needs more support. I know she's doing great now, but she needs more support. We need more battlers, right? Is even what's cool is she'll even test them out for you, and she'll give you note tags. She'll give you the text files. One thing I wish she would do is make a page where you can just get all of the note tags. I know there's like Google Docs where you can get all of the battlers and all the standalone sprites. I would really love to see a page on our website that gives you all of the. I know most of them are already made, so why not just make them easier to access? What I'm talking about right here is text files that come included with the zip files that have the PNG files. Somewhere where we can get these really easy, because a lot of a lot of them that I don't have the text files with the note tags, so that's gonna mean I have to do a lot of testing to make it look right. Luckily, a lot of them have the text file, which gives you these note tags into that shows you, you know, the best way. So you want the shadow to be this percent, the anchor at right here. You see how it's like the anchor's changed a little bit. But anyway, you can get all these note tags in the help files of Yanfly's plugins. Underneath that, this is a conditional. This is a conditional drops plugin. I forgot the name. There's too many names. Please forgive me. Extra enemy drops. I did remember it. Okay, so this is an extra drop. Remember how I said to beat the Minotaur, if you blind him, you'll get extra drops? This is the same thing that applies on the Maneater. If you hit him with wind, see, instead of state, this time it's element. So we're doing an eval instead of conditional, insert item name, drop, eval, and then we're saying whatever code we want it to be. You can get all kinds of code at the bottom of the extra enemy drops plugin help file. Refer to that. So I'm using enemy.timesTruck element 7, and if I look at my elements, I know that's wind. So if that's greater than 0, meaning if it was ever hit with any wind attack at all, so it's not hard. You don't have to kill him with wind. You just gotta hit him with wind at some point. And if you have, then add 100% chance to get that drop. So if you've hit this enemy with wind, even just one time, then boom, you're gonna get this drop at the end of the battle, guaranteed. On top of extra enemy drops, which is just enemy drops note tag, these are items. Very, very simple plugin. You type in the name of the item you want, add a colon, add the percent chance you want that drop to happen, and just put as many as you want, and then close it off with that. Then underneath that, I'm using a note tag for the Steel Snatch plugin from Yanfly. That's a lot of these enemies are right now placeholder. You can only steal a potion and a potion plus one. Going to change in the future to where you can steal more unique items. I've still got a lot of work to do, but when I was creating the thief class, which I finished for the most part, I needed to have, since I've given him the ability and skills to steal items, I wanted it to have some use. So I did a placeholder steal item 111, which is a potion, or it's a plus one potion. The 110 I think is the potion. So bosses you'll get a 50% chance, 50-50, and later on in the game I imagine I'll make gear that increases the chance to steal, and make like the brigands thing from Final Fantasy VI, and bring in elements from other games, and to increase the chance to steal and stuff like that. But right now it's a general 50-50 chance to steal. There is no snatch system where you don't get to pick your item. It's going to be more like a Final Fantasy VI style steal, where you try to steal and you can steal, or you can't, or you might not steal, and it's going to be based on a percentage, which will change depending on the gear that I've awarded. For now, like I said, it's 50-50. So that's it for the note tags on the enemies. They're all pretty much the same. There's one stray one right here, the floating note tag, which is part of the animated SV enemies. Wow, I'm on a roll tonight, guys. Round of applause. I am remembering names. I think that's it. There's not much of a difference between the enemies, except as far as what kinds of note tags I'm using. They're all different items that they drop. The only thing that's similar for them basically every time is the potion that they can steal. But they all drop different items. They all have different. They're all tiered, so 1 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 15, and so forth and so on in increments of 5. And it's going to work the same way, where you're going to have 3 or 4 enemies and then a boss, and 3 or 4 enemy types. But I think I came here when I was talking about the event on the map. So what I'm doing here is I'm using another Yanfly plugin. You guessed it. I forgot the name of it, but it's basically lets you is enemy swap or swap enemies plugin. Maybe it's that swap enemy. I lost my title already. Swap enemies plugin. Guessing. Really simple plugin. You basically you create an enemy, and then you put in a note tag. A blank enemy. You're not going to fight this enemy right here. All of this is going to be overwritten. This enemy is going to be replaced or swapped with the note tag, the numbers in the note tag. So this, every time we put in this in a troop, it's going to replace this with an enemy with the number 201 to 203. So every instance of this little Aggie is going to either be a Diver Dodo, a Raging Ram, or a Venomous Viper. So how I do the battles is when I'm designing my troops. So first thing I do is I design the enemies, and I design the random, and I classify that by level, because all of these 201 to 203 are basically level synced to 1 to 5, right? So this is going to be classified level 1 to 5. And then I go to my troops, and then underneath the troops, where I want to put that at, I make a battle of 2 of the random 1 to 5. And then I'll do 3, 4, and 5. And that's basically it. So when you encounter that battle, when you do an input battle processing, you're calling upon these instead of actually specifically saying 1 of this, 2 of this. It makes it easier, because you're going to have way more variance in the long run. And repeating the event over and over and over, you're going to have different outcomes. Say one time you get like 5 Vipers, or say one time you get 5 Dodos, and they all use Wing, and the Wing's an AoE, so you just get wrecked. It could happen in a rare chance. So that leads me back to where I branched off inside of an event. Don't need this event anymore. This is an event that an idea that I'm starting to have, like no matter what they're doing in the game, they're gonna have the ability to enter like a boss battle realm. So it's gonna be like a challenge event where you could take on boss battles, and most of the time. You're just gonna die until you build up your levels and get some more artifacts. But I'm gonna give the player the option to fight these hard bosses even from level 1, because I like it when games give me the ability to go farther than I'm supposed to be, and as long as I'm warned ahead of time, I don't like to get thrown into a fight that is just like, aha, this is a hard enemy, that I had no warning, I didn't know that, but most of the time, there's a lot of games. Black Isle Studios is good at doing this. They'll give you little clues that you shouldn't be here yet, but they'll let you go. They'll let you enter that wolf's den or the bear's cave or something, and then the bear tears your face off, and it's like, well, they sort of warned you. But then you have an incentive, right? Even though it's not part of the main story, it's part of the side story. You have some sort of incentive, like, you know what? I have to save the world and all, but I'm gonna get that damn bear. So I want to do something like that, where give the player the option from the get, after they design their initial tutorial, after they design their initial party, after the tutorial sequence and player setup, to take on all kinds of challenges. Like basically most of the bosses that the game has to throw at you, I'm going to let the players take them on at any point, giving rewards according to their challenge, their difficulty. And I'm going to do my best to make it so that they can't be super cheesed, but they all have some sort of strategy or weakness that will be used to achieve it. So that even at a lower possible level than you would normally be able to beat them, if you really use that strategy and you focus on that strategy a lot, say they're weak to fire or something, and you put like 3 black mages in your party and go crazy, go ham with the fires, then you might win a little under leveled because you went heavy on the strategy. I want to give that option to the player. This is nothing. This is not an event. This is just a placeholder to remind me of the idea of doing that. So that's why it's there. It's just an idea. This event is initializing. This is an auto run event that sets all my variables to 1 or 0 or whatever they should be, so that when I call upon them in damage formulas, the game doesn't deliver a 0 instead of and do funny things. It actually works right. So beginning of your game, I've said this 1,000 times, declare and initialize all of your variables from the get-go, and then you never have to think about it again, because we auto run it, turn on self switch, boom, never happens again. Now obviously when I change my starting location, I need to move this event. So I cut and paste. This is the same event that I've changed a lot and moved around from map to map. If I want to test a battle on another map, I need to cut this and paste that on another map, because most likely there's going to be variables used in that battle that are not declared, and they'll deliver a 0 and making the test not work right. Also I already talked about that, letting the party start with some tokens, just to give them a little head start, so that even if they don't know what they're doing at all, 0 skill or whatever, they spam it, or if they do use those artifact tokens, they'll have some items, and if they get too bad of a terrible thing, they can go through the tutorial again and redraw 6 items. I want to talk about one thing, problem that could be when you're dealing with random loot, right, where the player can draw upon it when they want to spend those tokens. Well, you know what everyone's thinking, right? Well, I'm going to save up my tokens, I'm going to save the game, I'm going to draw a bunch of relics. If I don't like what I got, I'm going to load the game, and then I try again, right? Wrong. You can't do that in this game, because I put a system into play that checks to see if you have any artifact tokens. So when they go to say, it's very simple, guys. I'll show you how to do this. So basically, when the player says save a game, well, first of all, you have to remove saving from the menu. So if we look inside the game here, I've gone through the Yanfly's main menu manager plugin, and I've basically just removed save from the menu. So if we press escape, there is no save option. You can't save anywhere. You can't save from the menu at all. So you have to go to certain towns, or maybe certain middle parts of the dungeon where you have the ability to camp and save and restore. But when you go to save, it does a simple conditional event, and it basically, you insert conditional branch, and you create an else branch, and you say, you check whatever it is that they have. I'm going to just give you how I did it for this game, but you could change it to work for your game, obviously. So in this game, artifact tokens are used to draw random items. And if you were to have them and store them up and then save the game and then draw your random artifacts, and you don't like those, you just load from your save point and do it over and over, players will exploit it, and they'll spend more time just like messing around exploiting. Like they'll spend more time in the Gashpon system than actually playing the game, you know what I mean, even though that is part of the game. Also, they'll be kind of making the game, they'll be taking value from the game because they're making the game less challenging by min-maxing and getting those items. You want them to do that, but you want them to get those items fairly, and not. And if they get a bad item, then hey, you could either do that challenge again and try to get another token, right? Or instead of just save load, save load, save load scum. So how I'm doing it is you give the player the question, show choices. When they say save the game, you create a conditional branch. You check if they have that item. In my case, artifact token is used in that game to get a random item. Create an else branch. So when they say yes, what you want to do is when they say yes, it checks to see do they have that item. And if they do have that item, you show text saying you cannot save the game while you're holding, you know, that item, and let the player know why they can't save, obviously, and what they can do to save, because you never want to like block them off from saving the game. That's kind of lame. So you can use the artifact draw system to get rid of those. Otherwise, open the save screen, which is I think it's page 2, or maybe it's page 3. Right here under seed control, open save screen. That's it. So when they try to save the game, if they have the item, they can't, and that's the end. Otherwise, let them save it. So that's how I'm handling those items and getting rid of the exploit. So that's the town event. It's pretty simple, the town event. I did do a loop on it, which was pretty cool. So I start this off with a loop. That way, when you get a full restore, you don't have to walk off the town, walk back onto the town in order to like buy and sell and stuff. So if you were to full restore or buy and sell or draw an artifact, and when you draw an artifact, it breaks the loop, but otherwise it won't break the loop. So you save the game, and that's it. So when you leave the town or hit escape, it'll break the loop. And when you try to draw artifacts, it'll break the loop. Otherwise, you can buy and sell, and then when you're done with the menu, you'll still be on that town menu so you can restore, and then after you get a full restore, you're still on that town menu. Simple little loop. I think you could do a lot with a simple loop. All right, so you guys seen this event? And so what I've done is copy pasted this event, changed it all up to make it work in this second event. And you guys seen some of the enemies when I was in the enemies tab. Done the same thing, except I didn't talk about how I did the first time reward. So when you beat the very last, so you beat this, you do a battle input processing. If they win, you do another battle input processing. If they win, you do it again, and then you change the battle music to the boss. And then when the boss fights, if they win, well, I'm doing a conditional statement right after they win. And I'm creating a switch for each boss battle. And I'm calling this one right here Forest, hold up. Forest Pass first, and if that switch is off, and remember all switches are off by default, if the switch is off, then say, hey, you're, as a first time bonus for clearing this challenge, you get 3 artifact tokens. Give them the items, turn on that switch, and then at the end you would do what you would normally do. So you just show text, so they won, excellent job clearing the challenge, you can complete this challenge again if you want, and then we replay the battleground, we replay the background music that we had stored in the previous tab, and then we control the self switch A off, turning this tab off so it goes back to this one. That lets the event loop, so as soon as they walk off the tile, come back on the tile, they get this thing again, and they can do the challenge over and over again, except this time if they beat it, they go through the whole thing again. This time, the switch is going to be on because after we gave them those 3 tokens, that switch was turned on. So it will bypass this the second time. After you beat them, it'll change the background music, start the battle, you beat them, then it'll show the text. Excellent job. You don't get the first time bonus the second time or any time after that because you already got the first time bonus. And then the same thing happens, goes back into the loop. So that's how the event works. Super easy event. Did the same thing in here. Except I don't know why this one teleports the player to a different map. You walk into a map, and then this actually has Parax lighting going on in here. You don't walk around this map at all. It's just there's very little moving around on the inside this dungeon. But you walk up one tile, and then you get asked if you want to do the fight. If you say no, it teleports you out of the cave. Um, I'm getting that first time event because this is when you first time get on this event, but otherwise you wouldn't get that. So you teleported to one tile. You can only go one direction, and when you walk on the tile, it triggers the event. So if we enter, then it'll start the fight. If we don't, it'll leave the thing. Also, the lighting changes. There's events going on. We enter the battle, and we have another lighting change, and then we're fighting a random battle. Another thing that I've added is you can see we're using Yanfly's like the Final Fantasy 14 style team limit gauge thing that I don't have a reason for it yet, but I'm gonna do something with it. I haven't used it at all in my other games or projects, so I want to do something with it. Maybe I'll do something with the limit bursts. Maybe some make special limit bursts that require 100 TP plus one of the bars to be charged or something. I'll figure it out later on. But that's basically how I'm doing that. It'll just teleport you back. I'll probably do lots of little caves and little one-off tile, small maps and stuff. Just doing a lot of system stuff. I'll add maps, of course. There'll be tons of more maps, but focusing on my strengths, that's what I'm definitely doing. And it'll all fall into line by the end. So what I've got to do, I did basically this is custom enemies. This is custom enemies. This is custom enemies. This is a repeat of this one, but it's 10 levels higher and different items and stuff. But the similar enemies for this. I'll just show it to you. I did add some more battle backgrounds as well, so you could get different atmospheres and stuff. I don't know if you guys have seen this battle background. But anyway, there's going to be 4 battles in a boss battle. And then this is also a repeat of the first one. So it's just 20 levels higher, right? So there's going to be repeats of some of the enemies when I feel like they would still be a challenge at a higher level, and I could recall on them to add more events, right? I want as many unique custom ones as possible, but I will replicate some of them so that you can try that event at a higher level. You know, same event, just like maybe now you're level 50, you don't want to go back to the level 5 one, you want to try it at level 25 or something. Then I added this one, a bridge where I'm using battlers, animated SV enemies plugin, which you already know I'm using. I've already mentioned it, and plus the note tags. But this one is like a bridge battle where you could. I'm also considering the idea of making it so you either have to fight this fight or pay a toll to cross the bridge, but I don't know if I want to do that or not. So right now, you could say no and then walk across the bridge. But you could see I'm not using, what do you call it, like enemy sprites. I'm using, well, these are technically sprites. I'm using like SV actor sprites for this one. So it'll be randomized things I created with the character generator a while ago. And you fight a boss at the end. The next thing I'm going to be working on are adding more enemies, adding more enemy skills, you know, basic one-liner, one-word enemy skills, maybe two words as well. Adding another action sequence for a healing type job. You know, I did like the double slice one. I'm going to do like one where you add like regen to the party. It does like a cure and regen to the party, you know. Like a Curaga, but something else. Maybe I'll do it where it adds like protect and regen and cure to the party, or maybe just protect and regen. I don't know. I want to do some more like party buff action sequences because they'll be a lot easier to do, to where I can just and I could do more animations flashing all over the screen, which is going to be cool. I think in the next Making a Game episode, I'm definitely going to do some action sequencing because I had to bring you guys up to speed on a lot of the things that I've done over the move, because a lot of you guys know I've moved to a different place and a lot of stuff's changed. You know, I've switched jobs, and so I apologize if there's been a slight lack of videos, but trust me, I'm still working on this project, and I'm still working on RPG Maker MV almost every day. I've been playing a lot of Record Keeper. That's what I've been up to mostly. I've been replaying Final Fantasy VI, PC Steam version. I've kind of got over the initial shock of like, oh, it's too different and I like the old graphics better. You know, it's all right. There's some different things in the game, and there are some things that the Steam versions improved over the original. Although I still prefer the original on SNES. I wish I still had my cart for that. But anyway, guys, thank you guys so much for watching. If you like these Let's Make a Game episodes, please give this video a thumbs up. It lets me know you guys want to see this content. Hopefully, there's enough for you. There's a long enough video here for you, an hour 50, for you guys, something to listen to while you're working on your project. I know if you go through all of these, I know some random dude started a Let's Make a Game. Go check him out. I mean, I don't have to plug him. He's bigger than me now. But yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you guys. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I always appreciate that. And numbers go up and down. It's hard to tell. But I'm still growing. It's just slower than I would like, of course. We always want more, right? But I really appreciate you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys so much for, if you want to check out more tips and tricks, I have driftwoodgaming.com. There's lots of resources there you can use. You can check out Yanfly, check out Akashix. There's just so many great resources out there. Yeah, I think I want to do these a little more common, a little more maybe weekly or so instead of like bi-weekly or even monthly sometimes. I work on it all the time, and I think I should just make episodes as soon as I could get the right time. Like right now is the super quiet time. 4 in the morning, guys. 4 in the morning. Anyway, you guys are awesome. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next episode.